Hey guys, today we're covering episode 7 of Marvel Television's The Daredevil Born Again. Let's get into it.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Till the End of the Line podcast. I'm your boy Juan G here with
Geek T.
That's right. And as he said, today we're going to be covering Daredevil Born Again, episode 7. This was a good one. We finally get to find out who Muse is, and we're going to be diving right into that. But first, we have some nerd news to tell you guys. All right, first bit of nerd news. We have Spider-Man's Brand New Day exclusively in movie theaters July 31st, 2026. And this is interesting to see that the title is Brand New Day. I like it, but I think there was talks of originally it was King in Black, right?
Yeah, it was called King in Black initially. I'm not sure where the changes happened and why it changed. I also heard that they were going to get away from the No Way Home or like all like the catchy titles. So, Brand New Day. Like all those like little catchy stuff. Like I was told. Oh well, I remember reading that they were gonna get away from like the catchy little 2 or 3 word names like No Way Home, Far From Home, things like that. So and they didn't want to include that in the titles going forward. Like so, I'm guessing if they're going Brand New Day, now the next one's gonna be a rainy day or whatever. Like they're gonna keep day in it. You know how Home was in every title from the other one. I hope they don't continue that, but whatever.
Yeah, I also thought that it was gonna be King in Black because of that end credit scene that we got in Venom,
But no,
the
yeah.
Last Dance. Yeah. So, well, it's interesting. I mean, Brand New Day sounds like you said. It sounds like the other three as far as like a catchy subtitle. But we'll see what else that movie has in store. I'm excited for it though. Either way.
They're working on like the next 3. I'm sorry, the next 2 like scripts already. Like they're the next 2 of the trilogy like are going to be all connected to this, and this is supposed to be like a direct sequel to the from the events of Doomsday. So it's going to be like a bridge movie between
Ooh,
Doomsday and Secret Wars. So that's what they're saying that the script is moving towards.
nice. Okay. Yeah, I didn't see anything on that, so that's pretty interesting to hear. All right.
Mhm.
Next bit of news: Vincent D'Onofrio says Kingpin can't appear in MCU films, and because it's all caught up in rights, which is a huge bummer for us nerds. We would love to see Kingpin on the big screen, but we all know this is real life, and we understand that people want their money and they don't want to give up certain things for it. So that's a bummer. All right, but you have some news about the upcoming live action Disney remakes, don't you?
So even though financially Snow White was kind of a flop, I think it's going to
Okay.
pick up steam. I've seen the movie, you've seen the movie. It's a cute movie. It's not bad.
Yeah.
And there's some changes, subtle changes from like the original. But it's not like this horrible movie that just ruined the old school movie like how everyone was claiming it to be. I think Rotten Tomatoes is like pretty harsh. I think it has one of the lowest ratings, if not the lowest rating. It even beat the old Dragon Ball Evolution. So they're not the worst movie rated anymore. So hell yeah, it was a cute movie, but there was some political agendas and standings, from the 2 main actresses, Gal and Rachel, and some social media nonsense that happened, and some pettiness on the red carpet, and it didn't help its case. But surprisingly, even with that, Disney announced because they're at not Comic Con, what's it called? CinemaCon, and they're releasing a lot
Okay.
of new trailers. We saw like the Megan trailer now, which kind of looks funny, and a bunch of new things. But with that, some news of some the 10 upcoming live action Disney remakes in development. So as we know, Lilo and Stitch comes out in a month. Moana is releasing next year, but confirmed is Aristocats, Hercules, Cruella 2, Tangled, Robin Hood, The Sword in the Stone. It has been delayed, but it's still in there. Hunchback of Notre Dame is in development, and Bambi is in development. I think out of that whole list, Hercules and Hunchback are like the two I'm really excited for. Outside of Lilo and Stitch because it's gonna come out soon. But I
Hmm.
mean, I don't know why people are bashing his live action stuff. Like, I think Mufasa was dope. You know, it was like I think
Right.
it was in my top 5 movies from last year. Like, I loved it. I've
Hmm.
watched it like 3 times since it came out on Disney Plus recently. Some new ones that are like now on the slate are sequels to Aladdin and Jungle Book because those did pretty well in the movies.
Yeah.
And I would not mind seeing, the second movie of Aladdin. It'd be kind of cool.
Hmm.
But I also wouldn't be against them telling a story of like how, Jasmine's mom died or whatever, like, you know how Mufasa is technically like a prequel. If they did an Aladdin prequel and
Oh,
tell a
right.
story, if they did an Aladdin prequel that a story we don't even know, you know,
Hmm.
or maybe it's the guy that's actually, the whole point of Aladdin was the guy in the beginning of the movie was just trying to sell us on how buy the lamp. That's the whole movie. That's
Yeah.
you didn't get my joke, did you?
That the
The
the whole
guy in the
movie was
beginning,
that. Yeah, he was
the
trying to
guy,
sell the lamp.
yeah, in the beginning,
That's what you said. Yeah.
yeah, he told a whole fake story. None of that ever happened. It was just a story to sell the lamp. He's just a con artist, a salesman,
Hmm.
trying to sell the lamp. So it's a all made up story. But never mind.
Yeah.
You didn't laugh. I didn't get the reaction I wanted. So thanks
Oh
for ruining
shit.
my joke.
Okay. I thought I was waiting for you to keep going. That's why I'm like holding it. Okay. Gotcha. Okay.
It's okay. But no, like, yeah, maybe a backstory on him. Maybe he, was maybe the story is him. Maybe he was Aladdin back in the day, and now he's like fell into wherever he's at. I don't know. It'd be cool to see a different twist of a live
You're
action.
starting like
Um,
just a whole fan theory book on Aladdin right now. So I'm just following the story, trying to trying
yeah,
to
it'd
get
be
on your
it'd be
page. That's it.
it'd be cool. Like the story of Mufasa is something I've never seen before. I don't know any comics or
Yeah.
old like TV shows or like even like novels or nothing. Like it's all new information. So I
Hmm.
mean, they can technically do whatever they want pre Aladdin or pre Jungle Book or pre Corella, pre 101
That's true. Yeah.
Dalmatians, and I think that's where they should focus. And then obviously tell an original story. Uh, tell it by telling original stories, and then keep to the original source material. But it'd be cool to see Hercules. You think Loki and Thor are gonna end up being
Absolutely not.
Hades and Hades and Zeus?
I'm just super young, just make an appearance, a cameo in there. They'll be in the
No, like
background and shit just for the
um,
Marvel nerds.
a lot of people have been no. I just meant Loki and Thor as in like Tom and Chris for them to
Oh, you mean
play
the
for
actual actors? Okay.
yeah. So everyone's been fan casting Tom Hiddleston to play Hades, and for Thor, I mean Thor, for Chris to play Hercules. Oh, not Hercules. I'm sorry, Zeus, because they're brothers in the
Okay.
comics, and they would play on the
Yeah.
Loki and the Hercules thing. They're already part of the Disney family. They have good chemistry.
Yeah, if you're talking about that, yeah, that would definitely be cool.
It'd be
I thought
hilarious,
you
right?
were originally talking about those two
Those
characters, Thor and
Norse gods
Loki.
being in the Greek
Yeah,
gods.
in the
Yeah, no.
background somewhere, so that there'll be an Easter egg. Us nerds will be like, "Hey, right there." Yeah.
But other than that, that's all I got for some nerd news, man.
All right. So with that, make sure to like and subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up with the latest in nerd news. And with that, on to the main topic, episode 7, Art for Art's Sake. In this episode, Daredevil is back and raises fist to stop Muse from killing again. This one was a great episode. We finally get to
Mhm.
see the man underneath the mask. And I was telling you before, right after the recap, a thought popped into my head, especially since they were focusing on Bastion. I'm like, I think Bastion's Muse. And I remember
Yeah.
saying
Well,
that
I
to Iris.
called it
She's like,
early when we first saw
did,
him when she was at the book signing, and I was
mhm.
like, that's got to be Muse for sure.
Yeah.
Like the stature, the long lankiness, skinny, you know.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
put the Easter egg is definitely like in the basket for me. And then I'm like, then they showed it again, and I'm like, it's got to be him for sure.
kind of ranked a little low. It's like the second lowest ranked. It's still an
Mhm.
8.2 in IMDb, but it wasn't the most popular ones of all of them. Surprisingly, the bank heist one was the least popular one, even though it was pretty entertaining. Definitely a filler episode, but it was entertaining. It wasn't bad.
Yeah, that's not surprising to me, just because, like as we said before, it did feel like a filler episode, so it didn't connect too much to the rest of the storyline. So, like, I get that it was the lowest rated. It wasn't a bad episode, like you said, for sure, but
Yeah.
I understand the rating
I
of
mean,
that.
nothing beats his last one when we finally get to see Daredevil back in the costume and, out and kicking ass again. So
Language.
Mhm.
I agree. The last one was an 8.8, number six. So that makes sense when that was the highest rated out of all of them so far. I can only imagine what these next two episodes have in store for us. Are they dropping together or separately? I don't remember.
I believe this one they're dropping together because I remember 2 times they had. Oh wait, no, the
That happened
first
already
episode. Yeah, the
in the
first
middle.
episode and 5 and 6 dropped together. So I think these are dropping solo. Yeah.
Okay.
So with that,
Okay.
the episode starts off Fisk in his office talking to Buck and Daniel about how he promised the city he would protect them against that freak, which he's talking about Muse. I just like the funny part where he asked both Buck and Daniel, "What do you see when you look out the window?" And then Buck goes Starbucks, and then or no, not Buck. Daniel goes Starbucks, and Buck's like voters. He's like, "Yeah, voters." Like fucking Daniel's such an idiot.
He's an airhead for sure. Spartans up at the end though.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think he's learning a lot from Fisk, and he's soaking all that knowledge up for sure.
It's worrisome of what he's learning. He
Hmm.
could be a threat soon.
Yep. And then Daniel tells him about Angela being taken to the hospital. She escaped from Muse and can point the cops to Muse's hideout. Buck tells Fisk she claims she was rescued by Daredevil.
I mean, well, that's exactly what happened. I just wonder why the cops aren't really acknowledging it, like that he's back. Are the good cops trying to play Fisk and Daredevil against each other, knowing that they had conflict in the past? You know what I mean? So are the ones that are not corrupted? Are they trying to keep him on his toes by not really confirming that Daredevil's there? You know what I mean?
That's a good theory. Yeah, I didn't think about that. I more saw it as, because we're not really seeing that side of the cops yet. We're just really seeing Daredevil and Fisk, and now this Fisk's task force. So
Yeah.
that's a good theory. I didn't even think about that. I just see that the task force is now seeing that he's back, and maybe the cops are just doing the actual process of that they have to follow of a crime
Right,
scene and
because they
stuff like
can't
that. And
confirm. Like there's theories and things point to it, but there's no proof. So I get that part.
mhm,
But I've been calling the task force VTF,
yeah,
Vigilante Task Force. So
mhm.
I think they have that on their patches too, in the comics. So, but
Okay,
anyways, so after Buck and Daniel and Fisk have their conversation, cuts to the intro, which is a pretty cool ass intro. The whole statue rising and stuff like that. Like, I think they both the original series and this series have had probably one of my most favorite intros. The intro scene of like the whole like
mhm.
everything
Yeah.
happening. The other one was
I I love the symbolism of like it being all rubble and then it coming back and building back up into Daredevil,
yeah,
just symbolizing him, his downfall
rising
and
again.
his and rising again. I thought it was a beautiful intro as well.
Yeah, or born again technically.
Yeah,
But yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I agree. They definitely took some notes from the old intro and made it their own thing now with Disney. So yeah, it opens up the first scene with Angela kind of having like a PTSD dreams, like flashbacks, while she's kind of like gaining some conscious or regaining her oh no, actually she was waking up. She already had been conscious because she
Hmm.
already had been interrogated. But like from all the events from the abduction from Muse. And then she hears Matt say, "I'm here" in the vision. And then I wonder, do you think she knows that that was Matt's voice as Daredevil, or she's like
I
trying to like pin it together?
the fan in me says yes. I don't
Yeah,
know if it's because, as we said before, she's a smart girl, so I think she's
she is.
gonna piece it
I mean,
together.
she found the
And she's
hideout, so
yeah, she found the hideout, and she also knows she was the only one to tell Matt that information. And then Daredevil shows up. I have a feeling like she's gonna piece it together at least by the end of the series. You know what I mean?
that is very, very, very true. He, yeah, he shared it with her only, or she shared it with him only.
Hmm.
After that, it turns into some steamy shower scene. Matt's kind of like just standing there, and I think you can see physically he's just in some pain, and he's kind of just letting the hot water like just soothe him. You know what I mean? Um, I felt him because that's how I stand there sometimes when because of my knee. I just be like my hands
Yeah.
on the wall, just like just let the hot water run down. So I
Oh no,
seen
trust me.
the
I mean, I'm not bruised up or anything, but at the end of the day, after lifting
a
heavy ass
long
boxes
day.
at work, yeah, I just stand there and let the hot water go on my back. And
Hmm.
yes, I felt what he was going through just in a different way. You know?
Yeah, I get you. I get you.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, neither of us ever are on his level of being a vigilante, but
Facts, yeah.
which would be cool, don't get me wrong. But anyways, Heather walks up and she saw the bruises on him and initially like questions it and see if he's okay. And then they just go into the steamy hot scene. And he just like shut up, kiss me basically. And then they just go
Yeah,
at it.
he tried to bypass that conversation as
Yeah,
quickly and the best way he could in that moment,
exactly.
and he
He's like,
succeeded.
pass
At least,
go
yeah.
for the sex scene and cue sex scene. So yeah, so that happened. And then after that, he's getting ready for work. And then she's just laying there in a robe or sitting in the bed in a robe. And she brings up the bruises again. And he kind of makes this like fake story about like, oh well, I went for a walk. Oh no, what he said something else differently first. And then he changes the story saying I went for a walk and it's kind of part of my reality. I trip and fall sometimes. And she's like, "Well, why
Yeah.
did you lie about going on a walk?" And he's like, "Because it's embarrassing, honey." Like, like 'cause he's
Mhm.
really good at like working through this, but you can tell he's not. His guard is up, but it's during this little conversation. I feel like he's at the point where, like, man, if I'm gonna take this mantle back, I'm either gonna lose her or I have to tell her. She needs to know. And I think he's gonna end up telling her soon, pretty soon. Um,
Yeah, especially with what happens later in this episode, for sure.
yeah, and because she's in all of next season already.
Hmm.
So she's not going anywhere. And so they have this conversation. She goes full doctor on him because he goes, Matt says he had an old life before this one, but this new life seems fake. And I was like, oh damn, bro. Careful with your words. And
Yeah.
she immediately took that like as if as if her relationship with him was fake. And then he's like, oh no, not you. Like too late now, bro. You put that in her ear already. You do that to, well, shit, if I said something like that to Sandy, she'd be like, wait, what? Like, that would hurt her feelings,
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm sure that,
Yeah, for sure.
sure that hurt Heather's feelings. And then that's when she goes full doctor mode and she's like, I'm sorry to do this to you, but you've been tamping down trauma for so long, you can't see when it's bubbling up inside of you and threatens to ruin everything good you have, everything good we have. And he's like, yeah, I know. And like, this is the first time actually I've seen him a little bit more on the sane side of like, yeah, I really need to get a cap on this. Like, I got to figure this out. And he's starting to see like, all right, cool. Maybe I shouldn't go down this road. And if I am, I can't keep secrets from the ones that I love because eventually they're gonna get hurt. And well, We know how this episode ends. And then they
Yeah,
share the
true.
first "I love you" on screen, and you can
Hmm.
tell they were like their their relationship was strong. But I didn't know they were at the "I love you" phase. So they're. I don't think I've ever seen him say. Did he say "I love you" to Electra?
I think so. I
I'd imagine,
I,
right?
I would imagine he did. Yeah, because that was one of his stronger relationships
Yeah.
ever that we've seen. Yeah,
You think Electra's like watching from another rooftop, like this motherfucker?
I would have put it past her for sure.
Right? She's gonna pop up in like the next season. She's like, so whatever happens to that one therapist chick? She's gonna be like, how'd you know?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so that happens, and then it flips over to him showing up at his firm, and Cherry is pissed. Cherry is just livid. He's like, "What the hell? I told you, you told me you were gonna do that again, and you're gonna pull this shit." Um, and I get it because he's worried. He doesn't want to see Matt go through everything. He saw him lose Foggy. He basically saw Daredevil at his lowest. And he
Yeah.
probably agreed to. He was already retiring that day. I think that was his retirement day, right? When Foggy passed.
Yes.
Um, so it's been a.
He's still annoying
Isn't it
the hell out of me.
really? You don't like Cherry?
Yeah, even I understand all those things. He's still annoying the shit out of me because I'm like, come on, dude. He's you got to still see that Daredevil does good for the city and he helps the people that really can't be helped. So you
Right, but
got to
from
put
from
that
the
past.
from the outside looking in, yeah, Daredevil, Batman, any vigilante sounds dope. But if you're on the
Hmm.
inside and that's your brother, that's your best friend, that's your cousin, that's your father, that's your
Hmm.
daughter, whatever, it changes. If you have a
True.
relationship with that person and you have an emotional attachment, like you really care for them, I don't want Sandy going out, being a vigilante in the middle of the night. You know what I mean? I don't even want her
True.
pumping gas in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
so
That's a good point.
that's where and Cherry was on the force. He's seen the ugliness that he stops and the ugly situation. So he knows the good, the bad, the ugly. And I think that's why Cherry is just like, you lost your best friend already. What more do you want to go out there? Like, you're doing good. You want to lose all this shit too? Everything you built so hard
Hmm.
to become. But Matt, this isn't Matt. And I agree with Matt at this point. Like, he's like, there was a point where, when you were on the force, you used to call me. But he wasn't talking about him as Matt. He used to call Daredevil, and signal
Hmm.
to Daredevil, and they would share information and whatnot. So it's looking like Matt's going to be back in the suit for a long time now. And I
Hmm.
hope Heather. Well, we know she's in the next season, but I hope she doesn't get hurt, like really hurt. Not like Foggy hurt. But
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see what happens. And then from there, it goes into duck and duck. It goes into quack quack. I don't know why I said
Fucking
duck. I
Howard's
meant
in
buck.
this. Howard's making an appearance. Oh shit! Cameo style.
Imagine.
Nice.
But yeah, it goes into the next scene where Buck and Fisk are like standing at a window, and I don't know what's with these window scenes in Fisk. Like he's just like sitting in the window, looking out the window, like people staring, people like
I
watching
feel
people.
like they're
Like it's
just
weird.
trying. Yeah, they're just trying to make him seem and look stoic and give him
Fair.
some drama to him. You know what I mean?
Okay, fair point. Fair point. But he kind of brings it, even with the way he talks. Like he has these long pauses, like very Obama is like esque.
Mm.
Like he has those pauses that like really, really are placed perfectly and gives his point across very well. Versus Fisk is a little bit more on the menacing side, but still same effect. But yeah, so they're talking about Daredevil being back and like why he's back. Then he brings up Fisk brings up this thing. Well, he talks about how Daredevil ruined his entire empire. And I didn't realize, I didn't really think about it, how intricate Fisk empire was before. And he had like politicians and like he had everybody corrupted. And his whole system was kind of foolproof. I'm not gonna lie, like it was pretty foolproof, and he had some solid money coming in, and all he was with a middleman that kind of put this person with this person covered this person, and he had his ass covered. And yeah, Daredevil ruined all that. So we had talked about the absence of Winston, right, from last season,
Hmm.
and that Buck was potentially probably going to be filling that role. Um,
Yeah.
and so Winston did some dirty work for him back in the day, but nothing to the point of what we see coming up here. And I think this is what this
Yeah.
conversation alluded to, because he goes, he asked Buck, he's like, "Hey, uh, when I hired you from your previous life, um, what do you what was the reason I hired you?" And then Buck goes, I believe he called it my ability to think uh, asymmetrically. And I was like, okay, what the hell does that mean? Like, what does this guy used to do?
Hmm.
What was his previous life? And we don't know yet, but we get a hint at it at the end of the episode.
Hmm.
Um, so that's why I brought up the Winston thing, because I think Fisk is in need of a Winston, because him and Vanessa are under Fritz. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's interesting. So then, yeah, from there it goes back to Angela chatting. She's like awake and talking to Matt, and she's talking about what she remembered from the abduction, and she starts talking about the drawings, and that Muse, all he did was talk about the drawings and kept drawing, and he was drawing faces, but never really alluded to whose face.
Hmm.
But it was like plural, it was like open ended, so I didn't think much of it, but we find out more. Then from there, it shows Vanessa and Luca. And where the hell are they meeting? What is this like little bridge area or like tunnel that they keep meeting at? Remember, because
Yeah.
Buck met
It's
met them there last time, and then now Luca and Vanessa met there.
Yeah, I gotta imagine it's similar. Well, Chicago fans will know what I mean by this, but like Lower Wacker Drive. So I gotta imagine it's something like that in New York. Just that
Mm,
style of place. That's the only
gotcha.
thing that comes to my mind.
That makes sense, because there's certain bridges in New York that are like double layered, right?
Hmm.
Maybe it's like somewhere around there, like for like wherever the walk or the bike path is, kind of thing.
Correct.
That's
Yeah.
smart. Okay, cool, cool.
Hmm.
Thanks for putting in. Once you said Laura Wacker, it clicked. I was like,
Yeah.
makes
I
sense.
figured it would.
Um, but Vanessa meets with Luca. They chat, and Luca says, he suggests that it's time for some change, kind of insinuating that like this Fist guy and what's his whole agenda? Why is he mayor? And then he kind of picks up that she doesn't really know why he's mayor either, and it's obvious that we don't know. Like they're just not. There's a huge disconnect between Vanessa and Fist right now, partly because she cheated on him, but also because he's not sharing his agenda with her. And usually they share everything. And then
Well, I think also that time away from each other that created a huge like void in their marriage, and she even talks about that in that therapy session. I think
yeah,
that was the main issue that she's having with him now. So, but yeah, I think the other things that you said are the exact reason also.
yeah. No, that's where I was gonna go to it after. Like, yeah, you spend all that time away from someone, but and the guy got shot in the eye, like, and he was like trying to heal himself and work through some emotional stuff that he was going through. And yeah, usually your partner's there for you, but I guess that's like the territory you go through when you're, dating the kingpin, or married the
Mm-hmm.
kingpin. Again, I don't condone cheating. Cheating is just horrible. You should never done it. But look at like
Correct.
Vanessa Bryant and Kobe Bryant. She stood by his side during the whole, scandal. And when he
Mhm.
did cheat on her, he owned up to it like a man, and he's like, I fucked up. But his
Yeah.
wife stood next to him. Just so happened to also be a Vanessa, but what's I didn't blame
Is
that,
that
but
why your brain connected that?
no, I'm a
Okay.
huge Kobe fan, and
Good.
Sandy at first wasn't. She's like, oh, he cheated on her. I was like, yeah, he did. He absolutely did. I go, but when you're in the limelight like that, and you're coming from high school right into the NBA, and you got all this money, celebrities, all of them, like their life is nothing like our lives at all,
True.
and
Yeah.
similar to the kingpin. And I'm not justifying it. Cheating is still cheating, abuse is still
Hmm.
abuse, but
Yeah.
there's just levels to it. And I'm not put in that situation where I have groupies thrown at me all the time. You know what I mean? Where temptation is like everywhere. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And it's hard, like, and that, yeah, even though I'm not a LeBron fan, there's never any issues about his family out in the public, or not, public eye. Like he's a man's man. He's a family man. He loves his kids. Hell, he got his son a freaking contract with the Lakers. Like
Hmm.
that's a good dad. You know what I mean? Little
Yeah.
crybaby on the court, but that's a good dad. Good dad and good
Yeah.
husband. And people make mistakes, and like for me, I see a riff. The ending. You put some notes. We'll get there. I don't think what you're thinking. I think there's a huge that canyon between them is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and
Just
bigger.
being, all
That's the
right. Good.
point I'm bringing. That's where I'm
Okay.
going with that. I channeled my inner Dr. Phil real quick, and
Nice.
that's where I was going with that. But Luca makes his point, and he's like, I suggest change. And I miss the old ways. We were more profitable. And then he kind of insinuates that he's going to be the one to make the change. And then she goes, are you asking for permission or are you asking for help? And he's like, well, that's up to you. And that's where I was like, bingo. I said it before. I go, I think she's going to turn on Fisk. Like after the whole
Okay.
therapy session, I had said that in a previous episode that we had filmed. And I was like, she's going to turn on him. She's going to just
Yeah.
turn her back on him because she loves the power just as much as that's what attracted her to Fisk, the power that he had. And she had never seen that. And I think she's drunk on that power.
You and I were on two totally different wavelengths on this because I was thinking she was seeing that Luca was trying to take the power from
Mm-hmm.
Fisk. And I don't know. I felt like she wanted to nip that in the bud because she knows Fisk can't be taken out that easily.
Well, he
So,
can't.
yeah. So that's why I'm like, I think she's setting him up to die. To Luca, I meant. I will dive more into that later, but all right, go ahead.
I agree. That was to cover her tracks and to make it look like I told you, Fisk. I told you someone needed to step up. And that's going to be her time. Well, yeah, time out there. When we get to the end, I'll get more into my theory. But
Sure. Yeah.
Vanessa's playing chess with Fisk, and Fisk is
Mhm.
playing chess too. And these are grandmaster level players that are playing chess. So on to the crazy guy, Bastion. A file was given from the Detective Kim, right? Was that what her name? Kim?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah. So she shows up again, and she also had inspected the layer. And so she went in with another cop, and she found some pictures, and they find a file on Bastion, and they I
Well,
think from
they didn't
her
find the file there, right? She looked it up after being there.
my bad. Correction. They
Okay.
created a file on Bastion because of a
Mm.
DNA sample that they found there. They
Correct.
did
Yeah.
find images that were there, and I'm guessing it was Detective Kim and whatever her partner's name was, the guy that went with her. All the stuff that they found, I think that's how that information got to the task force and how they were able to identify those paintings of being of the therapist Heather.
Hmm.
Um, so she goes and gives the Fisk gives Fisk the file and talks about Bastion's troubled past and that he has involuntary commitment when he was 15, 17, and 20.
Hmm.
And he's like, oh, so he's had a troubled past. And she's like, well, that's not even the biggest thing. He was trained by his parents. His parents forced him to do taekwondo, and he was trained by a master named Lee Suk-ji, and he basically is like one of the best top, martial artists ever. And his parents really wanted him to be an athlete, but he didn't. And then 3 months later, Lee shown up, was found dead on their property.
Yeah, because
No
he had been
investigation.
training Bastion for 3 months, and then after that 3 months, or at the end of that 3 months, his body just showed up on the estate. Yeah.
Yeah, and no investigation was made. Nothing. So I think Bastion's parents will be alluded to later. They might be people of power that had the resources to make that go away because they knew their
Definitely
son was
in that
going.
room with Fisk for sure in the last episode. Do you think it's maybe the woman that was talking to Fisk could be his mother? Because we never get her name, and even the subtitles just say woman.
Huh? I didn't put that together.
Is that a solid theory,
It
or am I
it
just
could be. It could be.
okay?
I mean, Because yeah, when they put woman, they do that to throw you off, to not
Mhm.
so that because there's gonna be a reveal later, usually. Just like
Yeah.
Bastion earlier, he showed up as man. Like it
Mhm.
wasn't. And they never said Bastion, nor did they ever say Adam, by the way. But that's a
Yeah,
little
I know.
inside
I
joke.
don't know where my brain went there. I wrote Adam, and I'm like,
I
you
was like, hey,
even
who's?
brought it up, and I'm like, why did my brain put Adam? It never said Adam. It just said Bastion. My brain went weird on that one.
He's like,
Yeah.
yeah, who is Adam? I don't even know who that is. Oh, I know who Adam is.
Who's Adam?
That's the girl, the dude that Vanessa had an affair with.
Oh, that's what it was. I just thought of the wrong person when I. Okay, thank you. Now I know why
Okay.
my brain did that. All right.
Okay, so you're not completely goofy.
Yeah, yeah, just a little bit.
uh just a little bit, right? In tandem with these two scenes, it's Kim talking to Fisk and telling her or telling him the whole backstory and detail on Bastion. Bastion has now showed up to Heather's therapy session at her office, and they're working through it. And she's starting to get a little unsettled with the way he's acting. He looks like he's like nervous to about to do something or
Yeah.
building momentum to do something. And
Mhm.
she's picking up on all of this quickly. Like at first she was very sweet and like forthcoming with, like, how are you? Da, da, da. And then little by little she kind of starts like sitting back in her chair, and then her leg goes up
Mhm.
and she's like, what the heck is going on? Like
Mhm.
in my opinion, like how does I guess you never really know, right? But how do you not have a panic button?
As a
Like
as
I
a
feel like
therapist,
as a therapist, you just never know.
okay. Is
And
she the only one in that floor? Like, is that her? No, right? America. I mean, America. New York's office buildings are pretty like tight as far as office spaces. So they have a lot of office spaces per floor, I would imagine.
yeah, and she seems
Okay.
to have her own practice there, and because like they
Okay.
have the couches in front, and then her desk is further down. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that she doesn't have like a secretary. I don't think she has any of that. She does all of it on her own.
Yeah.
She might have somebody that works remote for her and like schedules her stuff and like an assistant,
Mhm.
but like
Yeah.
it's not a full-fledged large like it's definitely her own practice. So in my opinion, like how do you not have I'm sure she's gonna have a panic alarm now, but
Yeah.
after what happened. But like how do
Yeah.
you not have like, the necklace panic alarms?
Yeah, she's
Besides the point we
definitely
jumped around
learned
a
a
little bit.
lesson after this episode for sure. She's
Yeah.
she's probably gonna install something now because I would imagine she never thought she would get that type of patient and
Hmm.
that would escalate that quickly. She would be able to warn the police after a session. So maybe that was
Right.
her thinking. But
But
yeah,
this
I
was
agree
the
with you.
first
She
session.
should get some.
Yeah. She needs to get some security measures put in place. But this is the first session I think she's ever seen this side of Bastion. This is all new territory. So I think had this session had ended, she would have been like, yo, I found Muse. You need to bring him up. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
well, I think this is their first session period, wasn't it?
No, because he was saying that they've met before. This isn't their first
They
session.
Yeah, they met at the book signing, but I thought this was their first session at like
Is
total.
that how you took it? I took it like
Yeah.
this was maybe not like they hadn't been meeting forever, but like from this part, because she met him right when she first met Matt. And now her and Matt are madly in love. So like time has passed. You
Okay.
know what I mean? A decent amount of time
Well,
has passed. I would feel like they've had at
I
least 3 sessions, 4 sessions, maybe.
I also feel like it was the first session because of the questions being asked. She was getting background on him that I feel like would have happened in the had there been earlier sessions, they would have happened then. So she
I,
didn't know about
well,
his past and stuff like that.
she didn't know about all of it, but that's why he said. But based on the dialogue from Bastion, he was speaking to her as if he had already expressed certain things. Where he's like, "Did I ever tell you that I did taekwondo?" She's like, "Oh no, you didn't."
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like there's a certain part of their dialogue where like there's an established conversation prior to that conversation. You
Okay.
know what I mean?
I didn't
And
pick up on
having
that at
had
first,
been
but all right.
in therapy and myself, like they would, she would usually my therapist used to probe me to talk about other things. Hey, you
Okay.
brought this up one time. Tell me a little bit more about that. We talked about this last week or this week or whatever. And
Okay.
then that's supposed to spark more things for you to open up and be like, hey, did I ever tell you this? Or hey, this happened
Yeah.
once also. And
Oh,
I
that's
think
a fair point. Yeah. Didn't pick
that's
up
how
on
their
those things.
back
I'm
and
glad you
forth
did.
went.
Yeah.
Yeah. For those haven't done therapy and you're looking and you're on the line of it, do it. It's extremely helpful. Love it. I've
Absolutely. Yeah.
probably only reason I am as sane as I am now. Well, borderline sane, but uh, I attribute a lot of that to therapy. There's some of the crazy stuff this world puts us through. So,
For
if you're
sure.
on the fence, jump it, go for it. Oh yeah, I was talking about like how Bastion's like being neurotic and like antsy, and then she starts getting really scared and she puts back, and then he has a nosebleed, and then which was probably one of the cooler things I've ever seen a villain do, just to scare the shit out of somebody. You just paint with your blood on a piece of paper, and I was like,
Yeah.
that's terrifying. I would fucking freak out too if I was Heather. I'd be like, I'm out of here.
Absolutely. Yeah. For
Gotta
sure.
go, gotta go. Like this guy's twisted. He's lost it. He's a nut.
Hmm.
And but what's it called? So yeah, so that's when she realized, oh, this is Muse. And then she's like, have you been displaying your art everywhere else too? He's like, yeah, you can say that. And then she's like, oh crap, I'm screwed. And then she
Yeah.
tries
This
to
was a really
run.
intense. It was a really intense scene, and kudos to the actor playing Muse because he gave a great performance for sure.
Yeah, he does an amazing job. And then she tries to run. He chases after her and smashes her against the freaking wall, and she goes unconscious. Um, and then it flips back to the what's it called, the law firm,
Kirsten and
and
Cherry. Yeah.
yeah, and Kristen stops Cherry, and she's like, "Hey, where's Matt?" And
Kirsten.
yeah, Kirsten. Um, she's like, "Where's Matt?" And Cherry's like, "Oh, well, gives her some bullshit. He went to go do something for the something case. I forgot what case." And she's
Mhm.
like, you guys have been playing these like games, and like I thought we're not supposed to keep secrets for each other. And he's like, well, I give you the same decency that I give him. Like,
Mhm.
basically saying like I keep secrets for you, so I keep secrets for him too. That's kind of part of my gig, bro. And she's like, yeah, but I thought we were all trusted each other, and I thought that was supposed to be mutual, like across the board. And I was like,
Yeah, she's
damn,
like, that doesn't work for me because we're supposed
yeah.
to be partners in this law firm. Yeah.
So who's the big bad of the season? Who do you think? Because Muse was supposed to be, but now he's dead.
I don't, yeah, I don't think that there's one big bad in this season. I think it's more trying to this series is trying to show both Daredevil and Fisk what they're dealing with now. So I think ultimately Fisk is always going to be
Mhm.
the big bad, and then they just have other things and other villains that they're both dealing with, or
Mm,
and then on the other side of that, Fisk is dealing with other heroes. So yeah, I don't think there's meant to
yeah,
be one big bad. I think Fisk is that big quote unquote big bad.
yeah. It is a weird dynamic because usually Fisk is on the opposing side of the law, and versus this time he is the law. And technically, Daredevil is in the wrong because the vigilantes are illegal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a weird dynamic. It's an interesting shield for Fisk to hide behind. So yeah, you're right. Yeah, that makes sense. So Fisk is going to continue to be the technically the good guy, um, legally, I guess.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, but
But to all us
that's a
fans, he's always the bad guy, and Daredevil's always the good guy for sure.
yeah. Yeah, you painted a cool narrative that I didn't even think of until now. That's pretty cool.
Thank you.
Also, Matt sneaks into the lair, and then he finds the drawings, and he's like touching all these drawings, and there's a bunch of them of Heather. And it's not faces, it's a face that he's drawing the same one over and over and over, and it's Heather.
Yeah.
That's also why I think
Was
he
was it multiple paintings of Heather? I thought it was paintings of other
there's
victims
other
of his.
there's other people, but there was like five of them of Heather.
Oh, of just
And
Heather?
that's why
Okay, I didn't catch those.
he kept touching and touching, and he's like, oh. And then it snaps back to the time where they were in the bed when she went full like, therapist on him, and he like
Mm-hmm.
they kiss and they share that I love you, and he touches her
And he
face.
caresses her face. Yeah.
Yeah. So when he touches the painting, he can feel it looks like her too. And
Yeah, which is a good thing that Muse was painting with, blood and his concoction because then it gave it texture so Matt can read that on the paper. You know what I mean?
that's
Like that paint plus
very,
blood.
very
Yeah.
true.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then poor Officer Powell walks in. He's like, "Hey, who just
And Daredevil just
just
throws his billy club and knocks him out again. I'm like, that made me laugh so hard because I'm like, this dude just keeps getting knocked out by Matt. And everywhere he goes, he cannot get away from just getting
and even Matt was
dropped
like, "Oh
by
shit."
Daredevil.
Matt was like, "Shit, like I shouldn't have done
Yeah.
that."
Or like, fuck,
It was
no,
funny.
I saw it as like, damn it, I had to do it again. Like this guy is
Oh,
never
fair.
in the right place at the right
Yeah,
time.
he's not.
He's just that's how I
And then,
took it. Daredevil
and then he
has
has
to
this
do what he
big
has to
ass
do.
welt on his forehead when he calls Fisk. He's just standing there. Yeah, yeah, we won't disappoint you. Yeah, you already did. You got hit in the face with a billy club, bro. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was pretty funny.
Yep.
um, so when Powell wakes up from regains consciousness, he calls Fisk and he tells him about the drawings, and they identified Heather. And Fisk stops for a second because he realizes, oh crap, like if it's Heather, there's no way Daredevil's not going to get involved in this. And that's why he tells him to not call an APV, because he doesn't want Daredevil to get caught by the cops. He wants him to get caught by the Vigilante Task Force so that they can
Yes.
say, get basically what they show at the end. They've captured another mask and kind of puts it on the mantle. And they want to be able to take out Daredevil so that he's playing chess again. And so that's when Fisk says, "No, that's what you guys are. I put you guys together for. Like, you guys take care of it."
Mhm.
And he sends the VTF after Muse. So they know that all right, Heather's in danger. So they're flying over. Heather wakes up and she's like kind of bounded in the chair. Well, her hands are tied, but she's sitting in the chair. And Muse is in full costume now. So she startled. She's like, "Oh shit, like, this is real. It wasn't a dream." And
Mhm.
what's it called? Muse, like they're like having this banter back and forth. She starts talking shit to him, and she like calls him a coward for hiding behind a mask, and so he like ties up her arm with a like a rubber thing, like when they go to draw your blood to like make your veins
Mhm.
deeper, and then he cuts
Mhm.
like right down her vein, like where you would draw blood from, and she's
Yeah.
bleeding out pretty bad.
I would
Slams her on
imagine
the
he got a
floor.
lot of practice. He got a lot of practice with drawing blood, so he knows how to hit certain veins to make it bleed more.
Hmm.
It definitely wasn't the carotid artery because then she would have died then. But he knows which parts of the body to make bleed so that he can drain them. He had to
Right.
study some kind of anatomy, especially if
Yeah,
he's
for sure.
going to be getting into that kind of killing.
Hmm. And then they start fighting, and like he like flips her, slams her on the ground. He lays out like a tarp. And what do you think he was gonna do? Do you think he was just gonna kill her, or was he gonna paint on that tarp on the floor?
I,
Because it didn't
I
look like
think
a
he was going to do
full,
both.
but he wasn't
Yeah.
gonna just murder her and then not make an art scene, right? Like he was gonna do something artistic there, wasn't he?
I would imagine. I thought I would in my head. I thought it was going to be a murder suicide, and that this was going to be his final one because,
Oh, so you
or
agree
maybe I
with the
thought
task
that
force with
once he heard the cops coming, I thought he was like, oh, okay, he's going to kill her, and then he's just going to kill himself. But then we see what happens
gotcha.
later. Yeah.
Yeah. So
What were you thinking?
detective, I wasn't sure really. He could have just killed her and then rolled her up, like rolled her into a blunt and took it. I'm just kidding. Um, but no, yeah, like he was. I wasn't really sure what he was gonna do, but I did pick up that tarp. It wasn't really like a bed sheet. It was a tarp. Like it was like those painters
Mhm.
mats that they lay out. Those
Oh,
thick,
okay. Yeah.
like almost like canvas type. So I mean,
Yeah.
in theory, I've seen people like after they paint all over it, then they staple that to like a frame and create like a canvas, and then they put it up.
Oh,
So you
interesting.
could
Okay.
stretch that out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't do it all the time, but sometimes you get some cool masterpieces out on some random material you're not used to. Then you just stretch it out and put it you build your own frame for the canvas.
Okay. I didn't
So
realize that. So then, yeah, that makes sense to where he was probably going to create a masterpiece of his from his basically he's like he said Heather was his muse that she was the key. So that
yeah,
makes sense that you were thinking
but
that.
but now that as you explain your part, maybe you're right about the murder. At first, when I watched it, the three times I seen it, I didn't think he was gonna commit suicide because every time the detective, what's his name, Detective Knight? Oh no, Sergeant North. Sorry, I don't know who Detective Knight is. What's it called? So he said like, oh, it looked like some like murder suicide, last hurrah essentially, and I kind of rolled my eyes and I was like, I don't think this guy's gonna commit suicide. But now that after you explain it, maybe you're right. Yeah, maybe he was gonna commit suicide. That was his final hurrah. You're right. But anyways, um, when he gets there, so after he slams her to the ground and Daredevil pops in and a couple bullets fly. Daredevil just like moves out the way quickly, and then the hand-to-hand combat in this scene is pretty legit. We're seeing
Yeah.
Taekwondo. I wouldn't say master, but a well-trained, Taekwondo martial artist.
Mhm.
And then obviously, we know that Matt is a beast when it comes to hand-to-hand combat. They're fighting, and Muse sees Heather get away, and he grabs the knife and he's gonna go run after her. And when he did the grappling hook Billy Club flip through his left shoulder
Mhm.
and did the get over here, basically, I was
Yeah.
like,
Th-
oh
I'm glad you
shit.
just said that because that's literally what ran through my head was Scorpion's move of get over here from Mortal Kombat. Absolutely. Yeah.
Epic scene, probably one of the
Mhm.
cooler ones. I would say, like, I like the hallway scenes and the continuous fighting with people.
Mhm.
This is a new Daredevil fight scene that we haven't seen. It is in close corners, like how we usually see. Like he's always like in a corner or something like that, or in a small room, minimal space to move, and he's beating the shit out of somebody. But that uses Billy Club to like. I've seen him rap people. I've seen him
Well, we saw
hit.
him rap Muse. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The fight choreography in the scene was excellent for sure.
Yeah, and it was pretty damn legit. It was pretty gross though, because like as it went through his shoulder, you saw the blood splurt out, and then he
Yeah.
yanked him back. So that's where I got the
Mhm.
immediately the Mortal Kombat scene. Like I was like, oh yeah,
I,
that's what it looks like. But
yeah. I also had a thought during this scene because when they were doing the hand to hand combat, I noticed Matt being silent. Like he wasn't as expressive as before. And you really didn't hear any of them grunting or anything or saying stuff. And I had a feeling he was being silent because Heather was there and he didn't want her to hear his voice. That popped into my head because I was noticing
hmm,
they were being especially silent. Like in other fights, you hear him, grunting or making sounds like that. And I would imagine that's why he wasn't doing that was because Heather was in the room.
interesting. Well, I have a flip side to that. I
Okay.
agree. I think that your theory would partner with mine, but they're
Okay.
not related at the same time. So because he's a trained martial artist, he when you train any type of martial arts, you're trained to remain calm and focus through your punches, your hits,
Right.
just being able to. So I think he was listening because he's fighting and he was quiet because he was focused on his heartbeat.
Oh,
Because
that
as a
makes a lot of
trained
sense.
martial artist, like you're calm, you're focused. Like he knows what to do. Like he learned from a
Mhm.
master, and that's one of the first things. If you learn from someone that's very very skilled and ranked, the biggest thing is like you beat yourself first before you beat them. If you're in your own head, so if you're
Yeah.
not, your chi isn't focused and you're not in the fight, you lost already because you're beating up your own self. And that's something you learn in Taekwondo, Aikido, Hapkido, Jeet all these different versions of martial arts. You learn that first from masters. It's like you need to focus on yourself, otherwise you lost the fight already. If you can't control your own tempo, your own breathing, all that, and that's why I think he was quiet, and that's why I was saying this hand to hand combat was legit because it was legit two martial artists going at it with each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a
But
great point. I didn't think about that aspect of the fight.
right, but you're right though. Like and it gives away to it at the end, because she's like, I heard him say my name, like that's
Mhm.
where he slipped up. You know what I mean? And he's usually pretty vocal. But you're right because he did scream once when he like slammed him
Yeah.
against the bookshelf, but he was oddly more quiet than normal. And I thought it was more of a concentration side, but it's probably both
It could be a
concentrating
bit of both.
and
Yeah, because he knows that he has to listen, especially more against somebody that's trained
Because
in a certain martial art. So I like
look
your
how when he
theory as
went
well. Yeah.
when he went against the hand, they were able to lower their heartbeat. Remember with
Hmm.
him and Stick? They're like, oh, and they're like, you can't hear his heartbeat, can you? So like, he's like, then that's when Stick is like, listen for when they take their breath because they're holding their breath for a long time.
Right. Yeah.
It's like eventually they'll breathe, and then that's when you find them. So but also I think he was listening to like, um, to Heather's heartline too, because he knew she was injured, and her heart rate might have been going crazy. So he had a lot going on. But yeah, so the fight happens. It looks like Daredevil was about to take him out. Like he had him still strapped up, and he was like beating his ass. And then out of nowhere, Heather picks up Muse's gun and just, I think it's like two or three shots, lays him out.
Yeah.
He's dead. I'm like, oh
Kill shot. She went
crap!
straight for the chest. Yep.
Holy cow! I didn't think she was gonna murder him. I thought they were just gonna capture him. He was gonna escape. Two more episodes. Muse is the big bad.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh crap. I think this puts another reason why I think he's gonna express that he's Daredevil to her, because he's gonna be like, no, I was there to save you. Like, you did everything you could, and what you did wasn't wrong. Like, you're justified. Like he's gonna, to make her feel better about murdering somebody, even though he's a sicko. I think he'll
Yeah, for
reveal
sure. And
himself.
we got a little bit of that in the hospital scene where she's, waking up and he tries to put her at ease as Matt, but I feel like he's gonna see that that's not enough for her. So
Hmm.
he's, like you said, he's gonna reveal himself that he is Daredevil and try to express even more that you had to do what you had to do in order to survive. Yeah.
Hey, well, we jumped a little bit to the end scene. The only last two scenes we haven't really discussed was Sergeant North. He confirms that Daredevil was there. And on arrival, Muse was dead and Heather was stabilized. And he thinks that Daredevil is the one that stabilized Heather. And Fist tells North that, hey, you saved her. You saved the day, not Daredevil. So that he's like shifting the narrative. And then it flips from that part of him telling them that that's the narrative. He must have called, Daniel, and to tell Daniel, hey, get BB. And now
Hmm.
Daniel is, sitting in Fish chair, thinking he's cool, drinking a glass of whiskey. And he does this
Acting
like,
like he is Fisk. Yeah, for sure. Uh-huh. Yep.
I think he's either way over his head and he might get killed because he's gonna try to manipulate the wrong person, or he's gonna become a really good key person in the future. It's gonna go one way or another. There's no in between. He's either
I agree.
he's a goner, he's in over his head, or he's gonna turn out to be an adversary, a well adversary. Um, but he basically tells and corners BB, and he's like, look, I got it's kind of a carrot and a stick situation. He's like, I got a really big carrot and a really big stick. Um, and I need you to basically shift the narrative because everyone trusts her and she always gets the report right. And he needs her to shift the narrative to say that the VTF is the one that saved the day, not Daredevil. And she's like,
Hmm.
you threatening me? He's like, no, think of it as an opportunity. I was like, okay, Fisk.
Yeah.
Okay, Fisk Jr. Relax.
Right. But at that same moment, I'm like, you had that coming, BB, because the way that she uses like her slick ways to get reports, it was gonna catch up to her sooner or later. And I feel like this is that moment. I'm like, well, you're gonna learn a valuable lesson now because
Hmm.
the way that you're going about things wasn't always gonna work. You're gonna do that to the wrong person.
Right.
And this,
You're
sure
going to
enough,
get the
it
right
happened now.
story from the wrong way one day.
Hmm.
And yeah, you're going to have to pay it up. And this is exactly what happened.
Yep.
So yeah, and then after that, like we talked a little about the Heather situation when he says that you didn't have a choice, and she's like, "Well, how do you know?" He's like, because I know you." Like
Yeah.
quick save, He didn't say it like that, but he says like, "Oh, it's because I know you." But in my mind, I'm like, he's like, "Oh shit, I shouldn't have said that." And
Yeah.
he's back in the game, he's back in the suit, but he doesn't know how to keep the lines separate. And he's blurring the lines between Matt and Daredevil right now. And this is where I really think he doesn't have a choice. I think he has to tell her.
Yeah. I agree.
And her saying, her saying that I didn't have a choice, it had double meaning of him. Like he doesn't have a choice. He has to be Daredevil. He has to take on the mantle, but he has to be honest this time and not hide it from the people he loves.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
Fisk holds a press conference. Officer Powell lifts up Muse's mask and they say, "I told you I was going to protect you, and I did it." Basically. And how about the most awkward smile ever? Like they're all snapping pictures, and Fisk does this
Yeah, this like
like this
weird smile.
weird, so awkward. He is not. He's not made for TV at all. Like
Well, no,
Vincent
you could tell
D'Onofrio
he
is
just
obviously.
doesn't smile a lot at all because he doesn't know how to do it. He's usually
Those cheek
angry or
muscles
just
might not know how to move correctly because he doesn't have.
exactly, exactly.
Oh goodness.
And then after that, it cuts to Luca and Vanessa texting, right?
Well, Vanessa texting Luca
Okay.
saying 32 Witches Street, he's alone. And you took this one way. I took
Mhm.
it a different way. So Fisk is eating alone in some restaurant, and Luca goes to kill him, and he walks through the restaurant, and two shots, double taps him. Buck hits him with shoots him, but he has a silencer on his gun, and he just takes him out. And he's like sitting in the shadows and just like done, easy peasy. After he double taps him, Fisk goes, tells Buck, he's like, "Hey, call Vanessa, and see if she would like her to bring home some Saul Monnier." And I saw you question my notes and why I put what it was.
No, I put that because I have a question as to why you explained the dish, and I wanted to know if I was correct. So you said it's a fish dish, correct?
Uh-huh.
So were you thinking that that's his way of saying she's gonna sleep with the fishes because he knows what she did?
Yeah, some fishy shit is happening,
Okay.
and she got fried out.
Yes, I got it
Right.
right. All right.
Yeah, and this is a Saul Monnier is a classic French dish, consisting of sole, like your soul,
Yeah, gotcha. Hmm.
floured and fried. And so she sold her soul by cutting him out. That's how I'm taking it. That's why I think
Okay.
she totally double crossed him.
Okay.
And this guy don't like he don't beat around the bush. He has some double meaning talk, like when he how he speaks,
Yeah.
but like he's very intentional, Fisk, and they wouldn't have put that. I could be wrong, but me being a chef, I was like, this got to mean something.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
And
like there's
we all know that Marvel likes to put Easter eggs in different styles, and this
yeah,
could be just a very hidden
yeah.
that
This was
only
not a
nerds
gefilte
like
fish
you that
scene,
yeah, 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 yeah.
This was not a rush hour gefilte fish. That's not what's happening here. This
Correct.
was
Yeah.
deliberately put in place and said
Hmm.
for a reason. So I'm glad you
Okay.
caught on to that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because you're probably reading my notes. You're like, why did he give me a recipe of a dish? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm like, I know there's a meaning behind this, and then I just put the question mark so that I remember to ask this question
Ask. Okay.
because I'm like, I have a feeling like that's the meaning behind this. I'm just so happy I was right. All right, that's cool. That was the episode, and
Yes.
I think it was a good episode. It was very
It had a lot of action. Oh, I had a small amount of action, but a lot of dialect or like not dialect. What's the word I'm looking for? A lot of
dialogue.
yeah, a lot of like conversation, dialogue that's the word I'm looking for, dialogue. That really pushed the story forward. The
Hmm.
dynamic between Vanessa and Fisk, the dynamic between Heather um and Matt, and then also the dynamic where Kirsten and Cherry and Matt. Like there's a lot of turmoil going everywhere and nothing's really
Yeah.
settled. The floor is really, really loose right now. And
Hmm.
that's gearing up for like I said, the final two episodes, which you were right. They're really separately. So the 8th is the next one, and then the 15th is the final episode. So
Okay.
it's and then we're after that we'll cover both of those separately, and we're gonna go right into Last of Us season 2. And so that's
Yes.
another series episodically that we're going to be covering, and I'm super excited for that
Mhm.
one. Sandy's super excited. She watches that with me. That was one of the first series that we watched together as a couple. when we first like after like living together and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Then she's hooked on it, so I'm hooked on it. You played the game. We've had our discussions on it before. It's a really good series.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I've been waiting
yeah.
for this season to drop for a very long time. You already know how I'm excited about it,
Hmm.
and I cannot wait to cover that. That's going to do it for us today. We have episode 8 next week that we will be
Hmm.
covering. You guys
Yep.
will see that. Let us know how you all are liking the series so far. But that's going to do it for us. And Kike, as always, I am with you.
To the end of the line. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to like and subscribe.
Also, hit that notification bell to stay up to date on all our new episodes and more.